So real quick, guys, I'm going to try to speed through these connections so I can show you the images. It's not so prattling on like the last video. Mindy McCready. Remember, I'm already breaking down her color palette in what she's wearing and how it symbolizes certain things. I've already made reference to it. Symbolizes the same idea of this mother of white light, but she has some of her smaller lights that make her up like a sea of light made up of tiny drops of water or drops of light, and each little drop of light is kind of like a soul, like one of us. So she is often represented throughout thousands of years now, not just in modern day popular culture, this mother of light as white with black stars in her. And really quick, let's take a look at where we see this Carcosa, black stars. Carcosa was written by a guy named Robert Chambers. Well, it was written about by a guy named Robert Chambers, referenced in The King in Yellow. Robert Chambers wrote very eerie, kind of Twilight Zone sort of like slightly horrific stories. He had a book called The King in Yellow that was a collection of these short stories, very much like H.P. Lovecraft. In fact, H.P. Lovecraft was influenced by this guy and looked up to him and hoped to write more like him. So I would suggest getting that book, again, called The King in Yellow. Here's a depiction of Carcosa. A lot of artists have tried to give their impression of what Carcosa would look like. And it's described as being this sort of alternate universe, very much like ours, but everything is the opposite. And it has a night sky that's white with black stars. Okay, we see Carcosa referenced in True Detective. Here's another bit of True Detective Carcosa. Here we go. Another bit of modern day media images. So True Detective is a TV series. The first season stars Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson as partner detectives, and they are trying to track down this man, or really a group of people. It turns out to be a bloodline, interconnected families that have passed down incestuous ritual behavior throughout the generations of their families, and they rape their own children, unfortunately. Yes, I do believe that's what we're dealing with in real life here, when we're dealing with certain families like the Frank family. I think that what these people do is do horrible things to their kids and probably other people's kids if they can get their hands on them. Here's an image from that show. This is sort of the crazy guy's depiction of the King in Yellow. The bad guy was sort of part of this bloodline of, he was sort of on the outskirts. He wasn't one of the senators or anything, but so this bloodline branched into a few different families. And some of them were on the crazier side, and some of them were, politicians. But they all got together and engaged in these rituals, it seems, all in the family. So I would suggest watching this TV show. Again, it's called True Detective, and they mention Carcosa, and so the rituals and the little belief system that this sick family seem to have definitely seemed to draw from the writings of Robert Chambers and Carcosa, this place with the white sky and the black stars. There's a depiction of the Horned Man, and I spoke about him, connection with Shiva and Cernunnos, lots of other deities that sort of represent like the devil, the fallen sun. All right, back to white skies with black stars. There's the Book of the Dead of Hinetwe. Images. Here we go. Trying to get this to come up. Oh my goodness, my kitten is mewing. She wants to be outside and I've told her no. white sky with black stars. I promise you guys, if they wanted it to be the other way around, the Egyptians were perfectly capable of making that. Instead, like the choice of a white sky with black stars is very important. It's on purpose. It's for a reason. If they wanted to, they could have made the sky, see how they have a swath of red there? They could have easily made the sky like a blue color or a black color. They clearly had plenty of black color, and they could have carved and or had white stars in there if they wanted it to be that way. They did not. They wanted it to be a white sky with black stars, right? That's Capri. He's this beetle god that supposedly made himself out of like the nothing, out of the chaos, or out of what they consider to be this they kind of depict it as a sleeping or a dead or a big dumb docile cow, a sea of white light that is like a mother. And she's often depicted as being white with black stars. Why? Because it's like a sea of light made up of lots of smaller little lights. And the little lights are meant to be like our souls. And this is how we're connected to her, all connected back to her. I guess like you got trapped down here in a material body, and but you still have a piece of her that connects you. So it's very possible that this idea clearly goes back thousands of years. We see this also, I've showed you guys, and you see it over here too. And in this case, it's like a hermaphrodite. I've often seen it perceived as a hermaphrodite, or sometimes represented as something more like a hyena, because the female hyenas have, dongs, and they're white, sort of like a white light color with black spots. Here we go. So it's seen here as being more hermaphroditic, but the little penis, PP, is meant to represent sort of this material realm down here, ruled over by this dude, like the fallen sun sucking his own dick. There you go. All right, you can see female, sort of like the snake sun man in there. This is telling a story. It's meant to represent many things. Also make note, I'm going to get into this in later videos, of this serpent, two-headed serpent. One side of it is a dog, jackal type of thing, fox type of thing, and that side is white, and sort of the lower side is red, and it's a man's head. Attached to him these are meant to be people, the general typical material human beings, and they're attached sort of on an umbilical cord / leash to this guy, the red fallen sun, the ruler of the material realm is their belief system. This guy, he would probably also might be Yoldabaoth, and Canubis and Kem, or Canum, Canubis, Canum. So Kem was actually like what Egypt was called back in the day. But the outer side is this white and sort of a dog fox face. By the way, guys, go watch, after you absorb some of this, go watch Never Ending Story again. The dog serpent. So this dog-faced, or sometimes lion-faced, white serpent thing, I'm going to be going over that, making a video going over a lot of my findings about that. And that's also in, again, this blog I've been writing. I haven't written it in a while. Some of it's published, some of it isn't. I'm going to start posting links to it in the descriptions of these videos. So this seems to be the belief system that's also carried on by the more hardcore of the Freemasons and other orders. So they believe that the true God was not the first one, the mother of light, that's again represented here, sort of background light with black stars in her. They believe that the true God is themselves, this thing that created itself out, her son, her fallen son, essentially created itself out of her. I say that the true first goddess is mother. She is all things. She is her own specific special thing. But she also represents the man. She has to, they're the first line of defense. When they fall, the women have to pick up the spears and take up their, quite often women have to take on the roles and duties of men. Men very rarely will take on the roles and duties of women. In fact, can't in a lot of ways. They can't do what we can do, and we can do just about everything they can do, except maybe lift heavy things. We can invent robots to do that for us now if we want. Anyway, so this image is representing so many, it's almost telling the same story over and over again, just in many different ways, if you break it down. And see, he's red on the inside, white on the outside. It's like an egg, it's like an embryo. White on the outside with the black stars. These are kind of, it's like this idea that some of the lights making up this big light have been extinguished, which makes me worry about people who seem to be like chaos agents. They seem to be working together to spread chaos and possibly like extinguish the light in people. It does seem to be this suggestion. So I do worry about that, the suggestion of extinguishing the smaller lights within the bigger light. And what that suggests about the psychology of people who might worship this idea. So, yeah. And then we've got, let's go back. And back. And let's do, Jewish curse magic bowl. That's the wrong thing. There we go. Images. So here we go. And I see this depiction popping up a lot. This idea of a white sky, or white woman, white mother, white sea with black stars in it. At the top of this, this one is like a curse of breaking the chain to the mother. Remember the chain in that last depiction I saw? And these are Jewish magic bowls, ancient Jewish magic bowls. And they have sort of curses and spells and stuff, magic spells carved into them and painted into them and such. This one, you have the downward pointing triangle. That is historically, very notably, always been symbolic of a female. It's white, and it's got the black spots in it. Why have that up there on the top? You know why? It's for a reason. And then here we also see like the idea of the spirals and the stripes, black and white stripes, making spirals, making bands, making chains. Here's a bigger, like a full image of it. And you can see this chain, this idea of a chain, like chained to the material realm possibly, but the way I read the way the spell was described, but it's not like that I translated it myself. It might suggest something different if I translated it myself. But the way the spell was described, it was supposed to break the chain to the mother, and I don't know you'd want to do that. Seems like that would be the same as like extinguishing your light. Like maybe making you into a vampire or something. That doesn't sound like something I don't know. That's something I really want to do. I don't think so. Pass. Hard pass on that. doesn't sound advisable. Anyway, look at the arm hair. Anyway, I like how they went out of their way to put the armpit hair. It's so again, this idea of a sea of light or a sky of white light, night sky of white light with black stars, or mother, the sea of light made up of lots of other lights. This relates back to this sacred geometry, flower of life. Here we go. Images. The flower of life. It's a big flower made up of lots of little flowers. And it's sort of also a big light made up of lots of smaller lights. And sometimes they're referred to as eyes. And sometimes she's referred to as the mother, the great mother, mother of light. Are we starting to see how this all comes together, guys? Those of you who've been like occasionally seen one of these sacred, I'm sure most of you have seen the flower of life, this particular image, like at one point or another, and on a piece of jewelry, some point it's crossed one of your social media feeds. You've seen this before. This is called the flower of life. This is from sacred geometry. It's a 2D depiction representation of a much deeper, much bigger thing, actually. Basically all of existence, all of life. It's actually a mother, a flower, a sea of light, a mother. All right? And so imagine all these little lights, all these little stars, all these little flowers that make her up being extinguished. These eyes being extinguished. That's what I'm seeing being alluded to, represented. That's what it seems to be when you see this white sky with black stars in it. Like lights that have been extinguished. At least that's one thing I'm considering, and it's worrisome. It's worrisome to see it referenced in modern day culture by, in movies, certain movies and TV shows that have gotten a lot of backing in Hollywood and gotten a lot of money, and were pushed into the limelight hardcore to begin with. So it's like, who are the people behind making these things popular and creating them? Again, they're the shepherders, the ones that herd and misdirected the flock, the sheep, the mob. They're the magicians, the distraction for the emperor or the king. They have you looking at one part of the courtroom, so you're not looking over at another part of the courtroom. So you're distracted by the court jester, and so you're not paying attention to the king sticking his hand up the young handmaiden's dress, to the queen or whatever is what's going on there. Or possibly even the princess, his own daughter's dress, who knows, stuff like that. So yeah, this is life. This is meant to represent all of life. And again, let's just loop it right back. We started with Mindy McCready, Kickass 2. There we go. So quite often when you see that, that's what that represents. White with black stars. She kind of looks like she could be that guy from, guy thing, hermaphroditic, all thing, creature. And that's, was white with black stars from the book of Henatwe, right? Another thing that I see is this idea that this first being might be more of like a little girl mother, a young girl. That worries me as well. Yeah. So that's probably one reason why they have her, young teenage girl, underage girl, who looks even younger than, the teenager she's supposed to be in this show. Because she's got, the big eyes and the puffy, poofy, lips. Even though she's a totally kick-ass character in this movie, she's got that look that pedos would like. So, a woman who looks like a baby, so that way they can't get in trouble, it's legally, but they can still satisfy their urges to some degree. But again, I do think that it's not just about pedophilia. I do think, again, there will be some that will engage in this because it's part of this belief system that got passed down. I also think that it relates back to, Carl Jung and Freud, I strongly believe, I've read this a few times, suggested that sort of the root of all psychological issues was sort of sexual taboo. And what is a sexual taboo, guys? Having sex with children. So it could be that some families, because that's one thing I see them reference a lot, they seem to love Jung. They love the writings of Jung, Carl Jung, the noted psychologist, It was his belief that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do recall reading this, his belief that most psychological issues stem from some kind of sexual taboo. So it could be these people believe in breaking down and or raising their children to not have any idea of a sexual taboo, which would mean having sex with your children and teaching them that that's perfectly acceptable for adults and children to have sex with one another. I say, you know what, maybe better to have a little bit of a psychological issue, and maybe better to have one or two. But that'll cause conflict. Well, that's life, bitches. If you don't like it, kill yourselves and leave. Go back to wherever you came from. Get out of this place. This is life. There's supposed to be some conflict here. So, yeah, you're not going to ever escape people having a psychological issue or two. This is a disgusting excuse to have sex with children. It's gross. And to likely prove themselves a part of this club and network so that they can get financial kickbacks and get a leg up in society by other people who are a part of this club. I think that some actors and actresses will have come from these families that are interconnected, that do this with their children. I think some won't have and don't know what they're representing. They're just being dressed by a hairdresser and a makeup artist and somebody who does the wardrobe. It's really, you should sooner look into the people who design that sort of stuff. Like whoever makes those decisions for, what they're going to wear, what their makeup is going to be, what their hair color is going to be, so on and so forth. Again, those would be artists. Whoever is like the conceptualizer of the backgrounds, the settings, the scenes and stuff. So don't always think that maybe the actors and actresses are in on this, but for sure there's going to be some in on it. Some just are, they have the right look, they have the talent, they're going to show up and just let themselves be dressed by the people on set and put in the scene, and they'll read the script, and that's that. Just putting that one out there. All right, yeah. So were there any other images I wanted to show? I just wanted to kind of try to power through a bit faster and show you some of these connected images. I might try again and see if I can make an even shorter one with all of them lined up. Well, you know what? A lot of these images are going to go into that write-up that I'm doing. I might as well just do that. That's easier. All right. Goodbye.